Ladies and gentlemen, as my dad used to say, F-I-J-I, it and jump in. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the line, he is from Cinemablend.com. His name is Mike Reyes. We got a big week of movies, man.
I believe the correct pronunciation, that is fajita, a chicken fajita.
I'm still trying to get him to get Fiji on his ankle, like F-I-J-I, like F-I on one ankle, J-I on the other. But my dad, he won't get a tattoo, so.
That would make sense. I'm surprised.
Yeah, no.
But then again, I don't really know your dad.
He's not a big tattoo guy, believe it or not. I have tattoos, and he always scoffs at me when I talk about them, so.
Huh.
Mike, do you have tattoos?
No.
Why not?
I just never really, I just haven't gotten around to it for the most part because I've never really felt like I had something that I wanted to get tattooed. And then I've kind of started to think about it more, especially because my wife is like, you should get a tattoo. You should totally get a tattoo. You're more alt than you think. You should get a tattoo. I'm like, okay. But let me get to this on my own. Don't push me to it. Let me get to the water. Don't just dump it down my throat, waterboarding style.
Hey, sometimes you just got to be kicked out of the nest and made to fly. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me right now as we talk about the world of movies. We got a big one coming out this weekend as Barbenheimer is coming.
Yes, Oppenheimer is upon us, yes.
It's so awesome.
I'm so excited for this.
All right.
It is. Like, rarely do we get a pair of movies that sort of land at the same time and just inspire such memery.
So for those of you playing along at home, if you have been living under a rock, it'll be blown away because of Oppenheimer. But Oppenheimer and Barbie are coming out the same weekend. It's just a magical combination of two movies that couldn't be any more different, right?
On the outside, yes. But after I've seen Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer,
man. Oppenheimer. Well, I think that was one of the other names that was sort of circling around, and eventually Barbenheimer just became the one everybody settled on, which it sounds better.
Yes.
It almost sounds like a classical music venue over in England, like the Barbican. Like, oh, we're going to the Barbenheimer tonight and watching Strauss's Fifth Movement over easy.
Oh, that's so awesome. All right, so let's start. You've seen Oppenheimer. We are recording this portion of the show on Wednesday. We'll do a little bit of time traveling this week so we can get the full review of Barbie coming out, or you'll see it later on this week. But let's start with Oppenheimer. This is a big one. This is Christopher Nolan, isn't it?
Yeah, Christopher Nolan, who you may remember from directing such films as the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, most recently Tenet, but also the historical drama Dunkirk, has now set his sights on the birth of the atomic age. And it is a story that takes place in two different points in time, because once again, Christopher Nolan loves to play with time in his stories. So he basically tells these two different stories from two different ends of the creation of the atomic bomb, which was courtesy of one J. Robert Oppenheimer, played by Cillian Murphy. And basically, this movie goes back and forth between Oppenheimer's life and leading up to the building of the bomb, as well as the confirmation hearings of Admiral Lewis Strauss, played by Robert Downey Jr., who is going for a cabinet position in the Eisenhower administration. And because of his association with Oppenheimer, he has to navigate that subject very carefully while he is waiting to be confirmed.
All righty. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me right now. All right, so what do we think?
It's amazing. It is quite possibly Christopher Nolan's best movie yet.
That's saying a lot, too.
It's history and it's scientific theory being told. Both of those subjects are being tackled in this way that's not only entertaining, but also just enlightening and engaging. This movie has a momentum that does not stop. It does not feel like 3 hours. We saw it in IMAX digital because we were supposed to see it in IMAX 70 millimeter, but it just wasn't working, so they had to switch to digital. I will pay to go see this again in 70 millimeter. I'm probably going to see this again a couple times just because I'm blown away by how this is how history should be told in films. It should be factual and it should be historically accurate to a point, but also there needs to be a sort of spectacle and a sort of presentation to it, because historical movies can get pretty flat if you don't do it right.
Yeah.
And just especially over the years, you have like the stereotypical biopics where It's either uplifting and inspirational, or it's dour with a message for the future that's just kind of vague. This sort of follows. This one's definitely.
It's true. No, I'm laughing at how true that is.
It's so true. But what happens is, well, this is definitely one of the more serious and dour biopics you'll see. It follows things to a logical conclusion. It doesn't try to be soup to nuts everything in Oppenheimer's life. It focuses solely on creating the bomb and the political fallout that came after it. And it leaves things on the right note.
Let me ask you,
it doesn't just title card you to the rest of the film.
Let me ask you this. Do they toy around with showing the bomb?
You do see a nuclear bomb explode. You see the test bomb explosion. You see the Trinity test.
What I'm asking is, like, it's if they, like, keep toying around with, and kind of like Chernobyl, where you had like little glimpses of it, and then at the very end they show you the full, blast of it.
Well, if you're asking whether you see the Nagasaki,
no, not in the Nagasaki
bombing, no.
Just in general, the bomb itself. Never mind.
Oh, you see the Trinity explosion. You see the test. Yeah, they created a nuclear explosion without detonating a nuke and using practical effects.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's just as horrifying and kind of awe-inspiring as you would think, because the whole thing about this is, with the two stories that are being told, it's like history, two ends of history racing towards each other. And then lesser movies would end with the explosion, and like I said, they would probably have a scene of Robert Oppenheimer afterwards, and they would title card you to death at the end, where it's like, this is what happened later on.
Yeah.
But you shift into another good portion of the movie where it focuses on him taking responsibility and the confirmation hearings that are going on and so forth. It doesn't leave anything unsaid. It is very unambiguous with what it's trying to say and what the story it's trying to tell.
All right. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me right now as we talk about movies. Oppenheimer is out. Did you see the TikTok I sent you about Oppenheimer this week?
I don't think I did. What'd you send me?
It was a screenshot. It was a screenshot of an IMAX theater, and someone bought the seat like dead center front row. And they put in some stuff, and it was like, I can pull it up real quick and let you and at least read it too, because it was so funny. I was showing some friends today, and they were laughing at it too. But who's the absolute madman who booked a singular front row ticket to Oppenheimer in IMAX 70 millimeter University City Walk on the opening preview night? And they show the thing, so you see the person who bought it, and then they use a clip of something William Dafoe was in, I think, and then it cuts to the explosion from Endgame, where Ant-Man gets blown backwards.
Well, I remember seeing that, where it's like audiences in IMAX watching the Oppenheimer explosion, and then it's like, it was the whole thing where it's like, I think it worked, and then the wave just comes in and knocks Ant-Man back.
Yeah. So anyways, all right, so Oppenheimer's out. You said it's fantastic. Go see it as big and loud as possible, right?
Yes. I mean, this is one of the best historical films I've seen. It's also just, it's history treated like a blockbuster, but not dumbing it down, and not just with the scope and with the style, because it's entertaining, it's artful, but also there is a very clear point to all of this, and it's an intellectual horror film.
All right.
And I loved it.
Perfect. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me right now. As I said, we will time travel here at the end and talk about Barbie, because I really want to do the Barbenheimer thing. I want to go see them both at the same. I know I'm not going to be able to this weekend, but I would love to do that.
I know there's probably going to be a gap between when my wife and I see each of the films, just because of the show times. And also, I think we're going to, well, it all depends on how we see Barbie tomorrow night, because on Thursday we're going to go. And if we go see it in Dolby, we're probably not going to worry about like getting to the Dolby screening. It's just like, okay, we'll go to a regular one after we go see Oppenheimer in IMAX.
You know what Barbenheimer sounds like? Like, if you do it, it sounds like you get a life achievement award. You know, on video games where it pops up, Barbenheimer, you saw this movie and this movie back to back. That's what it seems like to me.
I'm trying to remember what it was, but there was once a website that used to do things like you could check in for certain events, and then it would say like, hey, you did this, you get a sticker, and then you could literally send away for those stickers.
Yeah.
This was like a decade ago.
I think it should be a Life Achievement Award.
You're going to see 2 movies back to back. Lots of people do that.
Yeah, but Barbenheimer, I mean, it just seems like one, it should be a secret achievement. I'm just saying right now, it should be a secret achievement.
Like your local theater chain sees you've booked it and they automatically like give you preferred seats. You get like a popcorn and they have t-shirts made up for you. I wish there was like Warner Brothers and Universal wouldn't do it because part of the reason is, Christopher Nolan kind of broke up with Warner Brothers after Tenet, and they did the whole HBO Max same day thing. So he went over to Universal to make Oppenheimer, and like there's no way in hell they would do it, but I wish they would have played ball together and just done like a double feature, planned everything out, made swag for fans on like opening weekend, and just promoted the hell out of it, because that's the sort of thing movie theaters need right now.
What's the radioactive meter? It's a Geiger
counter.
Geiger count. They should have made pink Geiger counters.
That would be fantastic.
Oh, just saying.
I will take that, please.
So we'll get to Barbie here in a little bit. There's really no other movie out this weekend, right?
No. There's like no. Those are the 2 big ones this week.
All right. As we move over to the world of movie news, obviously the big news is still the actors' strike, which began last week. We covered it a little bit, along with the writers' strike. We don't want to forget about that. But actors' strike so far, I have really enjoyed enjoyed in a way of I am learning so many different actors out there, whether it be your A-list actors to your background people, giving me short little videos and, whether it's on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, of what exactly they're fighting for. It was a news story here, but now it seems a little bit more personal with the actors stuff. And that's just my take on it. I'm not saying it's not personal for the writers, but it seemed like I got all the information through a news source. Now I'm starting to get, all the different actors, talking about, what's going on with this.
Well, the writers have definitely been doing that too. But obviously, I'm someone that's, juiced into the biz, so to speak, so I'm paying attention to that sort of thing. And I follow a lot of writers and, as a writer myself, respect them and enjoy them.
And again, I'm not
does that.
I don't want it to seem like
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I just seem like I got more information about the writers' strike stuff from a news service.
I get that. I get what you're saying here, but
you're wrong.
Are definitely out there, and I would encourage you to go find writers on social media.
Listen, I am completely for it. I don't want it to come off that I'm against the writers and for the actors. It just seems like I've seen.
Oh,
more.
I know that.
So I don't need some a-hole coming up to me and be like, oh, what do you think you're doing? I'm like, it's not like that. I don't know how else to say it.
I know. That's why I'm trying to help. It's like, I get what you're saying. It's like the public at large who don't follow everything as minutely as someone that reports it like I do.
Yeah.
They're not going to know, like, Akilah Cooper was the writer of *Malignant*. And I wonder if she said anything about the writer's strike, because she's awesome. But you see James Vanderbeek out there, Dawson's Creek, the actors as like the public face. And that's why having SAG after a strike at the same time as the WGA is a wonderful thing, in the sense that they have similar concerns and they're backing their call.
Yeah.
So now the voices are amplified even louder. There's more stories out there that people can follow. I apparently read that Mandy Moore apparently got a residual check from This Is Us for 1 cent when it came to streaming. Like, I guess it was one of the checks. But you have to wonder how much that show's been streamed.
Yeah.
Especially whenever like a new season would come up, you'd have people that are trying to catch up on that stuff. You have to wonder how. Why and how?
I don't get it, and I love the reactions from some of the actors. What's his name from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? His like, really, kind of like, whoa,
Clark Gregg.
Yes.
Who's also a writer.
They are on such different planets, the writers and the bigwigs,
Yeah, especially with that whole thing where Bob Iger basically covered this last week. He said that Disney Plus was cannibalizing Marvel and Pixar's theatrical market. And then Clark Gregg retweets that with just a simple bruh.
Yeah, that's what
But then on
I forget
top
what
of
I knew
that-
it was a one-word thing, and I couldn't remember. I didn't have it in front of me. I'm sorry.
But then on top of that, I mean, who was pushing for Disney Plus big time? Who was the CEO of Disney at that time? Bob Iger. And just streaming is something that really needs to be looked at very carefully. There needs to be a lot of transparency with the numbers, and it just feels like this thing that was supposed to be this great big sort of life injection into the business is now becoming an even bigger albatross.
You know, I was thinking about this, and it's easy to say it's going to be one way or the other, but I truly believe this is going to go one of two ways. It's either going to wrap up surprisingly quick, or it's going to get really, really ugly.
I think it's already pretty ugly, just because of the stuff that writers are striking for. I didn't look at the whole document, but SAG apparently released they had like a little, not a questionnaire, but they had like a point-by-point document which all of the points that are being negotiated right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff like increasing, a lot of stuff from better coverage on trying to avoid the perils of AI to extending breaks. Meal breaks, which I think, if I read correctly, and I could be wrong, have not been extended since 1961. Like, it showed all these different things, and it was like rejected, and you've even got people alleging, and I'm saying alleging, that Universal not only started sidewalk construction where people were picketing, so they tore up the sidewalk to be finished, TBD, but they apparently trimmed the trees that were giving them shade and like basically trimmed all the shade. And they're saying like the studio's like, no, we didn't do that for those purposes.
No, we would never do that.
It's kind of hard. It's interesting is what I'll say. You can't really say either way because it's interesting and it's very bad timing if this was stuff that was supposed to happen.
Yeah. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me right now. Okay, so writer strike, what's the big, as of, Wednesday, the 19th, what's the big story with this right now?
I'd say with writers and SAG strike, it's going to be AI. It's how AI is used in everything from story creation or story shaping, which some people have seen, to the point where there was a story this week that alleged background extras are being asked to sign away their rights.
I saw that.
And that was something that, again, really bad timing for this to come up because one of the episodes of the current season of Black Mirror, Joan is Awful, deals with that sort of thing.
Just, wow.
No matter what side you're on, you have to admit there's been some really interesting things going on, like removing titles from a library entirely, making them unable for people to watch, and then just writing it off as a tax liability. Or even in the case of Batgirl, just not even seeing it at all.
It really, going back a little bit, it really is one of those subjects. They are so far apart on this stuff. You just don't know how it's going to work.
Yeah. And, I hope for the best. I hope people get a fair deal. And, AI in that context almost feels like the next atomic bomb.
Yeah.
When you really think about it, it's like that's the next sea change where you've got a Mission Impossible movie out there that's covering this. You've got a movie that explicitly mentions this in there. How much more on the nose do you get? Like, if people didn't think it was a concern, it's a concern.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me right now. As we get towards the end of this, like I said, we are going to be talking about Barbie here in a few minutes. I wanted to bring up real quick, there was a big anniversary this week in the world of movies as, believe it or not, The Dark Knight is 15 years old this week. It can almost drive.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it. Oh, man.
I know, that's one of those movies that doesn't feel like it's 15 years old to me.
Well, yeah, because it's just timeless.
The only part of that movie that doesn't jive with me still is Christopher Nolan's voice.
Christopher Nolan's voice.
Or Christian Bale's. My bad.
You're one of those people.
I don't know why, but every time I hear him go, where are they?
Look, I'll admit that there's certain scenes that it works better than others.
Yeah.
But I was just perfectly fine with it. By the way, the day that we're recording is 11 years since Dark Knight Rises.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
wow.
it just popped up on my Facebook, the 12:01 a.m. poster that I got that I drove my brothers to King of Prussia for so we could go see it together. And yeah.
I was telling you off the
Where
air.
did you first see Dark Knight?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That the Dark Knight one, that's what I'll always remember. Like, Dark Knight itself, I saw that in a friend of mine. She worked at the Science Center of Iowa, and they had an IMAX movie screen. I've told you about this before because the IMAX is shut down now permanently because of flooding, and insurance wouldn't cover the stuff, and it would just be too much to put it in. Which, by the way, if I win the lottery, I will buy them a new projector. I will make that place work again.
Oh, if I won the lottery, I'd probably open up the 24 screener by me that had a freshly refurbished IMAX put in months before it was taken out because of COVID. And they had a 70 millimeter, they had a Dolby. It was a perfect location right by me. It's just sitting there right now, boarded up.
That is my solemn vow. If I win the lottery, I will redo that IMAX theater at the Science Center of Iowa so people can enjoy IMAX movies again.
The summer of Dark Knight, I was all about going to. We have a casino in Atlantic City called the Tropicana that still has an IMAX theater. And that was where I started doing IMAX movies, when they started becoming more popular, like when Superman Returns did it and Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix and the early days where it was like one movie for a couple months. And then you didn't have to rush to catch something in IMAX. I remember the first time I ever saw footage for it was in the front of I Am Legend. I went to see I Am Legend in IMAX, and they showed the bank robbery from the beginning.
Yep.
So then next summer, I was all about getting people to that IMAX to go and see Dark Knight. Like my brothers, my girlfriend at the time, like I was just all about that.
Yeah. See, for me, it was, we got to do the test viewing of the IMAX. So it was me and my brother. Yeah. That was it in the theater. And I'll never forget, I'd never seen a real IMAX movie before. And I remember that opening scene where they're flying over, I believe it was Chicago, wasn't it? It's Gotham in the show, but I think it's Chicago. I felt like I was going to fall out of the chair.
I know, right? Because that just, it starts with like the logo and it's still sort of letterboxed. And it's like, and it's just like that, it automatically fills the screen.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, am I tilted? Am I falling? And then you see that one little window burst out, and then you're automatically in it. You're automatically enveloped in this movie, in this opening. And when studios remember to keep that in the Blu-ray releases, it makes me so happy. The Nolan movies tend to keep that. But meanwhile, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, if I'm not mistaken, still has not been released with the IMAX scenes restored, and I am going to campaign for that forever until it finally happens.
That is the hill I am going to die on, everybody.
Oh, I'm not dying. No, I'm just going to very, very vociferously.
Let's not get crazy here.
I'm not Tom Cruise. I can't just jump out a building and loop around it on a rope twice, and then people do what I want. I need to build up to that point.
I'm going to work on the playground first, and then we'll see what happens. So.
Yeah, it's like the Jungle Gym, then the Burj Khalifa. Or maybe a couple steps in between.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me right now. All right, we will wrap up this part of this, this portion of the interview. We'll come back, we'll do some time traveling, and we'll be back with Barbie.
Yeah, time to get dolled up.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, after a bit of time travel, we are back. It is Friday morning. Mike Reyes has seen Barbie. But, Mike, real quick, can I give you a little bit of cool movie news, at least for the state of Iowa? And you'll dig this because it has it's about a theater.
Ooh, I love preserving theaters.
So the Fleur Cinema is it's been around since the early 2000s here in Des Moines. It was just a little movie theater in Des Moines. You go see. It didn't have like the big hits. It had like indie films, and like I saw The Wrestler there. That's the last movie I saw there. Well, anyways, Fleur Cinema and Cafe and Fridley Theaters. Fridley is a big company here in the middle of Iowa. Have signed an agreement to reopen the iconic Southside movie theater. The Fleur Cinema and Cafe will reopen in time for fall Oscar season and will showcase various Academy Award contenders.
Huh.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, that is really cool.
I just saw that this morning on my way in, and I just thought I'd share it because it's kind of cool, movie news. I mean, it's more for here in, the state of Iowa and stuff. And yes, Fridley does run the giant IMAX theater over around town here.
Yeah, because I remember like just randomly looking at, I love trying to find like abandoned movie theater videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then also sometimes it'll be like theaters that are still running, and like I think it was the Fridley or just that big Iowa theater came up, and it's like, oh, cool.
So, anyways, Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me right now. As we do get into it, you've completed the Barbenheimer, not in one day, but you have done both movies now. Barbie, what do we think?
It's okay.
One of the guys in the building saw it the other day, which he has a funny story about it, but he really, really enjoyed it.
It's good. I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but I feel like it tried to have its cake and eat it too a little too much, because you do have some really sharp satire and then some really good emotional beats in this movie, but then some of the silliness kind of got in the way for me. And one sequence in particular is just this huge deal with Ken and all the other Kens towards the end of the movie.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there through this and thinking, okay, maybe we should just kind of show this in snippets instead of devoting like a whole set piece to it, because it just kind of felt like it was slowing things down and really kind of got in the way.
I thought the same. We had the same kind of conversation about the Outlaws. I thought what's his name was just a little too over the top, and that can really take you out of a movie sometime. Huh? Adam Devine. Yeah, Adam Devine. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's still a lot of fun. I am also very thankful that we're looking at two blockbuster movies in quotes here, but we've got a historical biopic and then a movie that really takes a heartfelt look at personal relations and gender inequality, and knows when to like push certain buttons. Like, I'm telling you, this movie starts with some really sharp satire, and then it goes into really good emotional beats, and then the movie kind of grinds to a screeching halt because Ken, and then kind of picks up again. And I mean, I'm seeing it again for Barbenheimer. I will be very curious to see how I take to it now that the hype watch is out.
Yeah.
Because, there's always my rule of like, I'm sure other people have this rule too, where it's like a movie you're really hyped about. Like usually after that first watch, you really can dig into it. So I'll get to dig into both that and Oppenheimer. My wife and I do the double feature, but it's good. I just wish it was better. But I'm appreciative that this movie exists. It's on the same weekend as Oppenheimer. People can go and just enjoy themselves at the movies this weekend.
Sorry, I was looking at the Wikipedia. Oh, by the way, if you Google Barbie, it turns your screen pink.
Ooh.
And it does some sparkles.
There's also a fantastic color palette to this movie, too. This movie is this is a well put together film. It's just that, for me, that one sequence kind of slowed things down.
No, you're fine, man. I get it. Like I said, little things can take you out of a movie really quick.
Yeah.
So, that's where we're at with that. So, okay, so Barbie, only okay. Well, it's good. It's not bad.
Yeah.
But it's not great.
Yeah.
It's a solid C student.
I don't know about...
Maybe a D.
D minus? I don't know. No. This was a good... I did enjoy this movie. It's just a certain portion of it was like, but there's some great... There's just some really good...
Oh, cool.
Like, I keep hitting the satire button, but there's great satire. Like, small spoiler, Ryan Gosling learns about patriarchy when he goes into the human world. Because it doesn't exist in Barbie land. And there is a sequence where he's, like, in front of video screens of Reagan and Clinton and Stallone. And, like, he's just learning about all, and it's wonderful. And then the repercussions that come from that, it is a well-played film. Like I said, I'm really interested to see it again with fresh eyes and maybe not be as criticizing, but at the moment it's kind of like, it's good, but I feel like it just really screeches to a halt when it should have been ramping up.
All right. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me right now as we wrap up this week. Any update? Because we talked about writer's strike a little bit earlier this week. Any updates since Wednesday?
Not that I've heard. The most that I know about is, I think, equity, Actors Equity, the one of the basically the UK Actors Guild.
Okay.
They are striking in solidarity.
Oh, wow. Oh, and you sent me the thing about Broadway as well.
Oh, yeah, IATSE, which I need to look at what exactly IATSE is, because I know cinematographers are part of that union as well. But it's basically they are looking to potentially strike on Broadway, which would, I mean, that, and not to mention outside of entertainment, we have a UPS strike coming.
Jesus. Oh.
Yeah, potential UPS strike is coming. It's tough out there, man.
Yeah.
And people should be going for what they deserve.
Real quick, the couple stories I did stumble across. An update to the tree story, how they cut the tree limbs so they took the shade out. Did you see the update on that?
Yeah. I heard that the mayor of Burbank is going to be fining Universal.
Yeah, because
they apparently didn't have permits.
They didn't have permits. It was the wrong time of year to do it. And there was something else to it. I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but I was like, oof, that makes you look so bad. That just seems like a rich.
It does look bad.
That really seems like a rich guy thing. Let's cut down the trees so they don't have any shade. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, that works. That's going to look good.
Yeah, the other one I saw pop up was about Jet Li and the whole Matrix thing from way back when. You explained it really well. They wanted to do what with his moves?
So basically what happened was Jet Li, I think they wanted him to play Seraph in Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions, but he turned it down because they were basically going to scan his moves into the computer. And he was afraid that they would have that in perpetuity. And that's like, you know, for a martial artist, that's your moves, your calling card. You want to talk about forward thinking.
Yeah, the article I saw said something I don't have it in front of me, so I apologize. But they talked about that he was worried that it would become their intellectual property.
Yeah. And I mean, you want to go back further when it comes to this sort of controversy. Look at the beer commercials they did with, like, John Wayne.
Yeah, so... Hey, real quick, I got a question about this that I just thought of.
Sure.
Can let's say Universal or Warner Brothers, just grab that one. Could they make
a random hypothetical?
Yeah, could they make a specific deal with SAG actors or anybody that's on strike, saying, "Hey, if you work for us, this is what you're going to get." I don't care what Paramount's doing. I don't care what what Disney's doing or whatever. If you do something for us, this is how you're going to get paid. This is going to be the residual structure. Could they get back to work?
I think that would. I don't know. I think that might be akin to a partial form of scabbing, just because one studio's doing it. It's like, okay, why can't all of these studios do it? Why can't the AMPTP get on board with that and agree to that? If one studio can do it, clearly everyone else can. It's like, do you want people to just work for one studio?
Well, that's what
even if a studio was trying to make that sort of deal, I don't know if actors in good conscience would accept it. And that's even on top of the fact that another thing that's proving controversy is certain actors are asking for strike waivers to continue work or to go to work on projects. Last I had saw, Jenna Ortega, Matthew McConaughey, and Anne Hathaway were all looking for strike waivers. And there's also I think it's a television series about the life of Jesus called The Chosen. They also have a strike waiver.
Huh. I just was curious about that because, I mean, if you're one company, and you can make a deal where, hey, it's good for us, it's good for you, those guys. I don't care what's happening at Paramount. I'm caring what happens here at, Warner Brothers, or whatever,
But at the same time, that's also a sort of favoritism. And that it just breaks the power of unions even more, because when that deal expires, who's to say it's going to be renewed? Who's to say it's going to be under those terms again? And we're right back to square one.
I guess my question was more, is that possible?
I don't know. And even at the same time, you would think that just as SAG members or WGA members might be looked down upon for taking such an offer, a studio or a power, whoever's in the position to make that would probably be looked down upon by their contemporaries as even offering it in the first place.
So really,
you've got. Go on.
No, I just have a question. Who are they? So all the movie production places are under one thing, right? What's that called? Like, what's the big bad monster?
The AMPTP. And it's not, I don't think it's so much the studios, but it's there are different producers that are in positions of power over at those studios. If I'm remembering this correctly, I'm still sort of feeling my way through it. Yeah, the AMPTP is the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. So that's basically a collective bargaining. It's like you have the AMPTP and you've got SAG-AFTRA. Those are union reps, union bodies.
So that's the NFL, and then your studios are the teams underneath it.
That sounds about fair. And again, if I am wrong about this, or if either of us are wrong about this, we welcome comments to help clarify. But that's basically what it seems like. It's like SAG-AFTRA and AMPTP are two different unions.
Okay.
AMPTP is for the producers and the executives, or the bigwigs. And then you've got SAG-AFTRA for the actors.
Okay.
And they have to negotiate to play ball. And since they have not successfully done so, that's the strike scenario we're in right now.
Okay. I guess I didn't know that the studios were all under kind of one thing as well. Because if it was me,
again, I don't think it's.
I'm just saying, if it was me, I'm gonna find a way to make a deal with these guys and gals so that I can have my pick of all the best. You know what I'm saying? It's like.
Yeah, like if a studio wanted to overstep and be advantageous, they could say, hey, we're going to offer you everything you want locked in for like 5 years. If you come work for us, I know this strike's going on, man, but don't you want to get
No,
paid?
I mean make a deal with SAG. I'm not talking just the actors in general, like with SAG. That's what I was talking about.
Well,
but now I know. Yeah, now I get that's not possible because they're kind of on their own team. So it's essentially
everybody's locking ranks.
Yes. So all right, Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com. That's going to do it for us this week. I'll let you get back to it. Go check out Barbenheimer.
One last thing before we go, I just wanted to mention this morning we lost a musical legend. Tony Bennett passed at the age of 96.
Boy, he hung in there.
And the man, in the past couple, over the last 2 years, maybe, or the last couple of years, he had just announced that he was dealing with Alzheimer's.
Yeah, that's too bad. That's a horrible disease.
And yeah, the man will always be an absolute legend. This hit me in the gut this morning, just sort of looking through news, and then all of a sudden it was freshly announced that he had gone. And Frank Sinatra was my great introduction to the American songbook as a kid. And then Tony Bennett was my further education into that, because he was the first singer that I had really latched onto afterwards. And I mean, the man had done so much. He served in World War II on top of being, an amazing musical icon. In the last couple of decades, he was doing duets with people like Amy Winehouse and Lady Gaga. And the man did a duet with Kermit the Frog on a Christmas album. And then on the short-lived show Muppets Tonight, he was one of the guests, and he had a really cool spot on there. And the man was just versatile. He even painted. The man painted. And really beautiful paintings, too. And it's just... Yvette Nicole Brown, another actor. I'm going to paraphrase what she said on here, because it's the same thing I felt when David Bowie passed. It's like, I knew this day was going to come at some point, but at the same time, I kind of thought he was going to live forever.
Yeah. To Tony Bennett, we wish you nothing but the best in the great beyond. That's going to do it for us this week. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com. You have yourself a wonderful weekend.
You as well.